5 years, 5 birthdays spent closing the store after everyone else went home. 5 Christmas Eves spent covering shifts because someone called in sick. 5 years of hitting every sales target corporate threw at us. And none of it mattered, because one Monday morning, a man I'd never met walked into my store, shook my hand, smiled, and decided I was unemployed. My name is Daniel. When this happened, I was the general manager of one of the busiest franchise locations in the state. At least, that's what my name tag said until Regional Director Richard Lawson arrived. He wore an expensive navy suit, a smile that never reached his eyes, and introduced himself by saying, "I'm here to improve performance." That should have been my first warning. I'd started at the franchise as a cashier. Back then, I was 19. I learned inventory, scheduling, food safety, payroll, marketing, maintenance. By the time I became general manager, I could tell you exactly how many burger buns we'd sell on a rainy Tuesday just by checking the weather forecast. Corporate loved numbers. Mine were impossible to ignore. Revenue up 23%. Employee turnover cut in half. Customer satisfaction highest in the district. Even neighboring franchise owners asked me for advice. I wasn't just managing a restaurant. I was running a business, which made what happened next feel completely unreal. 3 weeks after Richard became regional director, he called me into the office. His nephew was sitting there. Kyle, 24 years old, perfect haircut, designer watch, the kind of guy who looked uncomfortable carrying a box because he'd never lifted one before. Richard smiled. "Daniel, we've completed a performance review." I blinked. "I had one 3 months ago. This is a special review." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were complaints I'd never seen before. Anonymous employee reports, inventory discrepancies, leadership concerns. Every page looked official. Every accusation was vague. I laughed. "I'd like to respond to these." "You won't need to." "What?" "We've decided your management style no longer aligns with the company's future direction." Future direction. That's corporate language for, "We've already made our decision." I looked at Kyle. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. Richard folded his hands. "We're offering you 2 weeks severance if you sign today." I pushed the papers back. "This is because of him." Richard didn't answer. He didn't have to. Kyle stood up. "I'll need the office keys. Not tomorrow. Not after training. Immediately." 5 years, replaced in under 10 minutes. Walking out of that building was harder than I'd expected. Not because of the paycheck. Because of my people. The cooks who'd worked with me since opening day. The single mom whose schedule I'd rearranged every week so she could pick up her kids. The teenager I'd promoted into his first leadership position. None of them knew. They watched me leave carrying a cardboard box. Nobody spoke. They already understood. The severance lasted 6 weeks. Finding another management job wasn't easy. Richard had quietly marked me as not eligible for rehire. Funny how fast reputations change when someone important tells the story first. For a month, I was angry. Then something happened. One of my old assistant managers called. "You should see this place." "What happened?" "Kyle." Apparently he'd made changes. Lots of them. Cut experienced staff because they were too expensive. Reduced training. Ordered cheaper ingredients. Ignored maintenance requests. Started scheduling friends instead of reliable employees. Within 2 months, online reviews collapsed. Customers complained constantly. Sales dropped. Good employees quit. Everything I'd spent 5 years building was disappearing. Most people would have celebrated. I didn't. Watching good people suffer because of one entitled manager wasn't satisfying. It was frustrating. Then my former supplier called me. "Daniel, I heard what happened." "Yeah, You ever think about owning instead of managing? Haha, I laughed. With what money? There are investors. That sentence stayed in my head for days. Owning, not managing. Owning. I started researching. Turns out, franchise systems are full of struggling locations. Owners retire. Businesses fail. Stores need rescuing. One location 40 minutes away had been losing money for 3 years. Nobody wanted it. The building was old, equipment outdated, staff exhausted. Investors saw a money pit. I saw opportunity, because unlike them, I understood exactly why franchises fail. Not because of bad locations, bad leadership. Finding funding wasn't easy. Every bank asked the same question. You've never owned a business before. No. So why should we lend to you? I showed them numbers. 5 years of performance reports, profit growth, labor efficiency, customer retention. Eventually, one local business owner listened. He'd built several successful restaurants. Instead of asking about collateral, he asked one question. If I walk into your store 6 months from now, what will be different? I smiled. The employees will know my name. He laughed. Then he became my silent partner. The first 6 months nearly broke me. I painted walls myself, fixed equipment, worked 16-hour days, cook, cashier, janitor, manager. Some nights I slept in the office because driving home wasted time, but little by little, things changed. Customers noticed cleaner dining rooms. Employees stayed. Reviews improved. Sales climbed. Word spread. Within a year, the hopeless franchise had become one of the fastest growing locations in the region. Corporate started calling, asking questions, wanting interviews. They loved success stories. They just didn't remember firing me. Meanwhile, Kyle's store kept sinking. Health inspection violations, high staff turnover, declining profits, missed operational targets. Corporate sent consultants. Nothing worked because consultants can't fix leadership that doesn't listen. Richard protected his nephew as long as he could, but numbers don't care about family. Eventually, corporate headquarters stepped in. The franchise owner received an ultimatum: sell or lose the license. Guess who received the first phone call? The corporate representative sounded nervous. Daniel, we understand you're interested in expansion. I might be. The location on Riverside Avenue is available. I almost laughed. Riverside Avenue, my old store, the one I'd built, the one I'd been thrown out of. I kept my voice calm. Send me the financials. They were worse than I expected. Revenue down 38%, equipment neglected, staffing crisis, customer ratings in free fall. Everyone else saw disaster. I saw home. The purchase meeting happened on a Thursday, exactly 2 years after I was fired. I walked into the conference room wearing the same style navy suit Richard had worn, not because I admired him, because success has a funny sense of humor. Richard looked confident until he saw me. His smile vanished. Kyle looked confused. Corporate's vice president stood up. Daniel, glad you could make it. Richard frowned. What is he doing here? The vice president answered before I could. He's buying the location. Silence. The kind that fills every corner of a room. Richard looked from me to the contract, then back again. No, there must be some mistake. There isn't. The vice president slid the documents across the table. Effective Monday, ownership transfers. Richard's face turned pale. Kyle whispered, "But I'm the manager." I finally spoke. For now, walking through those front doors again felt surreal. The smell, the kitchen sounds, the employees. Some recognized me instantly. Others only knew the stories. One cashier smiled. They said you'd never come back. I didn't. I came to stay. Within 2 weeks, we replaced broken equipment, improved training, raised standards, listened to employees. Sales started recovering almost immediately. Funny how quickly people respond when they're treated with respect. Richard requested a meeting. He walked into my office looking smaller than I remembered. Age does that. Stress helps. He cleared his throat. I was hoping Kyle could keep his position. I leaned back. Why? He's family. I nodded slowly. I remember someone telling me management decisions shouldn't be emotional. His eyes dropped. I opened a folder. Inside was an employee performance review. Very official, very familiar. Leadership concerns, poor operational judgment, failure to meet financial expectations. Almost identical to the paperwork he'd used on me. I slid it across the desk. Recognition flashed across his face. You kept it. No, I improved it. He didn't say anything, because there wasn't anything left to say. Finally, I looked up. I believe the wording was, I pretended to think, your management style no longer aligns with the company's future direction. The room went completely silent. Richard closed the folder. I understand. For the first time, he actually did. Kyle wasn't escorted out. Neither was Richard. Revenge isn't always louder when you yell. Sometimes it's quieter when you simply follow the same rules they insisted everyone else follow. Kyle received a generous severance, career counseling, references based only on factual performance, nothing personal, just business. Exactly as they'd once told me. Today, I own 3 franchise locations. The Riverside store is the highest performing one in the district. Many of the employees who quit under Kyle eventually returned. Some of them are now managers themselves. Whenever someone asks how I built such successful stores, they expect me to talk about marketing, or pricing, or operations. Those things matter, but they're not the reason. People don't build successful businesses. Respected people do. The irony isn't that I eventually owned the franchise. The irony is that Richard thought he was protecting the future by hiring family. Instead, he handed the future to the one person who already knew how to build it. The day he fired me, he believed he'd closed a door. He never realized he'd pushed me toward one with my name already waiting on it. And the best part? Every morning when I unlock the doors to that old building, I still use the same keyring I carried 5 years ago. The only difference, back then I worked for the franchise. Now, the franchise works for me.